Paris in the fall, the last months of the year and the end of the millennium.
Hello everyone and welcome to PlayStation Access. My name is Rosie and I am joined by the absolute legend and director and, that's your official title, but just wonderful person in general, Charles Cecil. Charles, how are you doing today?
I'm doing a lot better with such a generous introduction. Thank you so much, Rosie. And it's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, thank you so much for joining us. As we are playing, look at that, Broken Sword, Shadow of the Templars Reforged, which is, would you say it's a remaster of the original or a remake?
Well, if we look at this crow scene, for example, because the original game was running from single speed CD, it was really compressed. The colours were to adhere to the compression. You got terrible pixelation, and now what we have is a 4K version, and you won't notice, but the fact that it feels very dead. So we've added a little bit of ripple to the water. We've added the odd car, but it's nobody will notice it, and I don't want people to notice it. What I want people to know is that there's this sense that actually there's movement in the scene. It feels much more dynamic.
Definitely. Like, I didn't notice the water, but even now I'm just looking at it and I think it's just because it was so naturally there. Like, when you saw this back on PS1, you would have just thought, yeah, that's doing its thing. But actually now seeing that you've put that detail in there, this music playing whilst I'm talking as well, I'm feeling very, overwhelmed right now with it. But it is just adding to the atmosphere of the world.
Well, what a lot of people talk about is remembering these layouts, Rolf Saxon's voice, and the music of Barrington Phelan, and how revolutionary it felt back in 1996 when the game first released. And this is our hero, George. One of the things that when we wrote it, the idea of the Knights Templar, nobody'd heard of them. And, the Da Vinci Code was still 5, 6, 7 years off. So this felt, and I would like to think still feels very fresh, because it introduced the world to so many of these sort of historical ideas. And here we have the massive explosion. Immediately
in with the drama. You guys do not wait at all, do you?
What we need to do, though, is we need to motivate the player right from the very beginning, and we need to give them an intrigue. Why was that manuscript stolen? How was it stolen? What's going on? And we worked with wonderful, wonderful layout artists and storyboarders to create a sequence that was short and snappy and provided a context and a motivation for George.
All I could hear was the ceaseless drone of traffic.
And do you mind if I lean over you?
Of course.
If you press this button.
Yes.
So you're and you're a wonderful, you've been very generous about, but you'll remember the game. And this presumably is how you remember it playing.
Yeah, literally, this screen from when I got stuck on this. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness, Charles! Oh, it looks so crisp. Already, when we came into this world, I was there thinking, can I have a go? I'd like to press the button as well. Look at that! Oh, that's amazing. Seeing already the crisp texture, I was like, this is already a stunning, visually absolutely beautiful. The colour, the detail, you can see it's just had a beautiful polish put around it. And when you see the comparison, because this is the polish that we saw back in the 90s when this first came out on PS1, we imagined it looked like this. And seeing it then just go into this mode, it's fantastic.
And notice that his eye isn't even a pixel.
Yeah.
All you've got is the suggestion. So you look at this in low resolution, and you put a level of detail on which just simply didn't exist. And can I suggest? Would you mind just moving the right? So what we have here is we absolutely love the controller as an interface, and as you move around, you'll see that actually those two icons, action icons, will. Would you mind moving just the joypad very, very slightly?
Of course. Oh,
so what we do is you can see that actually it's very dynamic. We'd like to think it feels.
Look at that.
And that actually, this is in response to when we put the game out to test and people were confused. If you now move to the newspaper, you'll see that actually it just jumps across. It holds for a little bit of a latitude, and then it jumps across. So you can't possibly get confused by what the hotspots are, which is what people were doing before. And of course, you have the legend there, which gives you the indication. But by having two there are always two. There's always the examine, and there's always the main interact. And we're really excited by this interface because it just feels so PlayStation-y and controller-y and joypad-y, and it's we put a lot of love into it, and hopefully it'll feel.
Already moving the analog stick, I'm like, wow, the fluent movement of the cursor as well, and the speed it goes at as well. I'm like, I think that was weirdly the first thing, comparing it to when I played this on PS1. I was like, wow, look at my cursor go. Like, it's just so fluent. And I think the fact that you've clearly pointed out a pickup and an examine icon, I think, is fantastic, because there are so many times, at least personally for me, when I've played a point and click, there are some puzzles you can't solve unless you do either examine an item first and then you can pick it up. So to show that you clearly show that you can do both is fantastic. So George, bless him, he's just been standing here staring into the void.
Could I direct you to the left?
Of course. Would you like me to go into the cafe?
Yes, please.
Or?
Yeah. So so we're in story mode. At the beginning, you can either go into classic mode or story mode. Story mode has certain features, like, for example, you can see that on the right-hand side now, it's just giving you a little hint, that actually what you want to do is go out there. Because ultimately, people who play these games want to feel smart, and they don't want to get frustrated. The desire to play games has changed in the last 30 years. Now, you can, of course, play the classic mode if you want. And would you come across to the...
Of course.
And really, you can see that there's a very wide range of options. So you can just play the game the way that you want to play it. That's really what our ambition was. And if I could direct you into the alleyway, I'd like to show you...
Into the alleyway, of course.
And the reason that I want to show you this is that for 30 years, could you pull, can I just do this? If we go here, for 30 years, when we came here,
I took a deep breath and prepared to climb the drainpipe. I guess the clown had an escape over the rooftops.
No, George, he couldn't have escaped over the rooftops because the pipe doesn't go to the top of the screen. Why didn't the artist put it to the top of the screen? Surely they should have known for 30 years, these things. And now it goes to the top of the screen.
Fantastic.
Lots of little things like that. And it might be just cathartic for me, and it probably is just cathartic, but I'm so excited that all of these things, having lived with this game for so long, that small and slightly larger continuity errors. And if we now follow what this is going to tell us and come across, and I'll come back in here if you don't mind.
I was going to say, if you please play the game and show us everything you want to show with this fantastic game.
Notice also that you won't have noticed because it's almost irrelevant. But because we've already walked across the screen once, when you click on, you just fade the screen down much earlier, which actually means that you're playing the game a lot faster.
Yes.
But not taking anything away. And if we now come across to this dead body.
I tried not to meet his stare as I searched the dead man's pockets. No wallet, no papers, no credit cards. The guy's past was a blank page.
And what we then start doing is taking away
the sight of the dead guy's staring eyes.
When there's nothing new, we turn. So you can see the eye is now grayed out.
Yes.
And if I now come over here and search him again, because there is a new item.
I checked his pockets. Nothing.
So now in this, you can see that he's no longer a hotspot.
Yes.
So what we're doing is we're rewarding the player for exploration by focusing the gameplay on the character. And we'll come and pick up Chantel here.
That is such a fantastic element that you've included, that you just simply remove certain elements and things like that, because the amount I remember being a kid and like listening to the same dialogues because I'm just experimenting.
That's my desire, is that the player will never listen to, or only very occasionally hear the same dialogue, because that is what happens in adventure games.
Yes.
You hear the same dialogue again and again and again, and it breaks all the sense of immersion.
Yeah, because then you're just like skip,
exactly.
and then you don't listen.
I could sense her reserve. It was something which seemed to afflict.
And for people who don't know the game, George is an American who's come to Paris, and everybody's slightly crazy, and we live that craziness through his point of view.
Okay.
And he will then, of course, meet Nico, who is French. And between the two of them, they're the only sane people.
Mm-hmm.
But their relationship is really important because they're so different. In fact, in many ways, actually, it was Nico that came first. And George was designed to be the foil to this, very go-getting French young journalist, photojournalist.
Anything at all?
No. I need a drink. Pour me a brandy.
We give people a choice, so
I did notice that, and already I was just like, the first prompt I just thought,
and it will.
yes.
So say yes. So yes. Say yes.
We'll pour
You know,
brandy.
Straight or with ice?
Just give me the bottle with a chip
And,
on it.
and in this particular case, there is a sort of they're all minor payoffs, because everybody will remember the choices that you made, and sometimes they're important, sometimes they're not important. But at least we do register that
The brandy as if it was water.
there's really no point in giving people a choice unless it has some sort of influence on the way that happens to the game later. Now, notice the way that George is looking straight ahead. That was the general animation. Whenever George talks, he looks straight forward. And at this, it doesn't matter. But when we started playing, because this is 50 times the resolution of the
Yes.
original, you actually notice the fact that if he's not looking into Chantel's eyes, then it looks really, really strange. So what we've had to do is, because a lot of the code had to be reverse engineered, we weren't actually able to compile the original code properly. I know. So basically what we've done is we've added a layer on top, and part of it is making sure that actually George can.
Again, like seeing this, because playing it back in the day, as soon as you pointed out that he always looks straight ahead, I do remember noticing that when I was younger. But playing this now, it's not something I clicked with, because again, all part of it also just felt natural. That yes, he was just talking to this character. So even seeing the detail in his eye movement there, just from going straight ahead to looking down, it really made a difference.
Can I show off something else?
Please do.
And, again, if you go back to the original, then obviously there are no shadows. Now, one of the things is that in the intro, we saw the clown plant the bomb on that stool. So it seems absolutely ludicrous that the actually centre of the bomb blast is there.
Yes.
So finally, again, after 30 years, I'm able to go, yes, it's always worried me. I know nobody else has noticed. I know that nobody else cares. But I do. And I'm able to ask the artist to draw it correctly. But also you'll see here that he's got a shadow. A dynamic shadow. He's got a light rim round the top of his head. And as he walks into the room, so he dynamically gets darker. These are all things that people would expect on a game from 2024.
Yes.
And so it's not like I'm showing off. But the point about this game is this is a game that a modern audience in 2024 will really, I hope, look at and go, this feels like a modern adventure with everything that I would expect. The light rims, the dynamic shadow, the dynamic lighting. And again, you can see we fade down, because the first time we walked him all the way over, the second time we fade down, nobody notices. Which basically means that it's right.
Yeah, that's going to be such a game changer, though, just for the fluid experience, rather than just always, especially when you're stumped on a puzzle as well. The amount of times I remember George walking just from the left side to the right side and watching him just always do that, whereas now with these fluent, just little fades. And I want to ask as well, since you mentioned the detail over here, I've noticed in the middle of the floor, the design has got like a little sort of explosion comic effect. Is that intentional for...
Do you know, that's probably the artist. Can you go back to the original?
Of course. Oh, sorry there. There we go.
Yes. I think that was the artist, and I'm going to give the artist full credit for doing that. That was... But you're right. It pays tribute.
It's like a wonderful just little memory of like, we know how it used to be. And it's little details, and like that love and care is what I especially love. And I've already seen it throughout playing the Reforged version of this game.
Now, Rosie, because we're messing about, because we've been messing about, it's now telling you, please pick up the newspaper.
It's, literally the arrows.
But normally you would be playing the game. Normally you would have discovered that.
Yes.
But this is what our nudging, auto-hinting the player towards a solution, because we don't want them to get stuck. You can. Do you mind if I?
Of course.
You can go in and you can get game help. And even here, what it does is it gives you the story so far, which is only, it's never much more than that. But what it's doing is it's summarizing, so that if you come back a week later, you get a summary of where you are, but most importantly, what your immediate objective is.
Yes.
Well, he couldn't have known that. George decided there and then he was going to find the clown. So you know that that is about finding the clown. And then there are hints.
Okay.
We hope that nobody will need to go to hints, because we hope that the auto hints will work. But if you're really, really stuck, you can then reveal the hint. So let me show you this one. This is the example of, an early one where George picks the newspaper up. But here, he's given us a little look at the audience. His head tips down and his eyes dip down. And you can see, the shape on the newspaper, which was before just a mush.
Yeah.
It read Salah ad-Din, 1345.
And so for every single, there are 30,000 frames of animation. So for each one, we've gone in and either redrawn it or tidied it in some way. Also, we want to say, we want the player, you can see that there's a little thing, I chose not to, but we really try and make sure that the player, let's come out here. Sorry, I'm rather...
No, please, just hearing you passionately talk about it is wonderful.
And, in the original, sorry, can we go, so if you look, what we had to do was determine exactly what those epaulets would be, the fact that he's got handcuffs hanging from his belt, the way his buttons move, everything, because none of that detail existed.
Yeah.
So what our wonderful animators did is go back to the original concept art and look at what the intention was. And that, for us, is the canon. What is the intention?
God, you're absolutely right there. Like, I can't stop looking at the handcuffs on his side.
Stop holding your breath at once.
Like, now I'm comparing the two just to see all the character models to be like, what else has been added?
The other thing is that George... Sorry.
No,
the other thing is that if you look at George there, he's actually looking in the wrong direction. So again, what we had to do was add some extra animation so that he's looking round, so that when Rosso talks to him, actually they're looking at each other.
Yeah.
Because the eye is just more critical, a lot more critical. It's very high resolution now, and the eye picks up errors that it wouldn't notice when we're talking about low resolution.
Definitely. Was that because I remember in Broken Sword 2 you had like the character boxes when the characters spoke. Was that because of feedback of George was always just looking straight ahead? Or?
And also we wanted to put, I mean, now obviously we don't need them because you've got the expressions in the face.
Yeah.
But it was this idea that the resolution was so low that we wanted to bring out, and rightly or wrongly, we wanted to bring out some of the characterization through a close-up of the facial.
How did you come up with the plot for Broken Sword? If that's like not too big of a question to ask.
Well, can I answer that in two ways? The first one is that for George and Nico, I was born in 1962, and my mother took me to Paris when I was about 7. Mm-hmm. So it was probably 69, and in those days, Paris was so different, and France was so different. And well, leave this to play out.
Can't you at least give me some advice?
What can I say? Stay alert and look out for suspicious character.
And don't cross the road until the little man shows green.
I will. I love the writing in this.
Well, the scriptwriter was a guy called Dave Cummins, and he had a wicked sense of humour, as you can imagine. So, yeah, my mother took me to Paris when I was about 7, and it was so different. England was grey, bomb-scarred and poor, and France was rich, and people smoked gitan. Have you ever heard of a gitan?
No.
And a Gauloise. They're cigarettes that don't get sold anymore because they're too strong.
Oh, God.
But completely different. And the food was amazing, and people had scents. You know, they wore perfume that I'd never... And it just was extraordinary. So I have to admit that this France, this Paris, is the Paris that I remember from 1969, which is so extraordinarily different to, now everything is homogenous and there's not that much difference. So, Nico, with her wonderful, wonderful confidence, was actually the first character. And George, I wanted was a second character that between them, when the juxtaposition created interesting exchanges and affection, but then also a degree of conflict. So on one hand, we've got this, very confident young photojournalist, and on the other, we've got an easygo-lucky. And I think a lot of the reason that Broken Sword, a lot of people, particularly young women, not young women, women like it, is because you have a strong female co-protagonist, which was very rare in the 90s.
I do remember Nico being an absolute boss. I do remember as a kid, I was like, oh, they're so cool. I think as well with the design of the purple and the sort of leather kind of jacket, I was always like, how'd you look in the original as well? Yeah, there we go. I remember being like, wow, they look awesome. So... Let's have a look in my inventory as well. So I've got Rosso's card now.
The card read, Augustin Rosso, and gave an address to the south of the Montparnasse Cemetery.
But even then, seeing this inventory screen right now, I had to see what the menus look like, because obviously with a point and click, they're a very pivotal point.
But now, of course, you've got so much detail.
Yeah.
And of course, the newspaper as an icon reflects the newspaper when you picked it up, which never happened the first time. I mean, just there's a later line, is that can I suggest you come down, going up the screen and talk to the workman.
Of course.
And then what we can do is we can go to news screens. So if you give him the newspaper.
So we need to talk to him first, don't I? Or
you could talk to him about the newspaper, or you could just press the triangle.
Of course, yes, and then
and then lift it out.
Oh, look at this!
So you have a choice on how you actually communicate with people.
Brilliant, because I wasn't sure if it was going to be a case again, like some point and clicks where you talk and then you can give them the item and then it starts progressing. But that's just a super speedy way of being sorted.
He was only doing his duty, I guess.
And again, I've got to see the comparison between, even the green and the leaves. It looks so much.
Well,
so much brighter.
I think, to be fair to the original artists, we had extraordinary constraints. We had a limit of 256 colours per screen, and that included the character sprites. So the character sprites were 16 colours, and that left about 200 colours for the backgrounds, which is why you had to, why they were very limited in how they could actually be conveyed.
Right. Okay. Because the art in both of them is stunning. Like I mentioned to you, when I played the demo, it was actually the visuals that unlocked the memory for me after years of not playing it. It was the visuals that I thought, I remember Broken Sword, I really want to play it again now. So especially with Reforged coming out, I'm even more just like, yes, I can't wait to delve into it and see these visuals and this story and these characters again.
So, bless you, obviously the option to jump between the old and the new is very much for people who played the original and remember it. And hopefully for a new generation who've never played the original, they will play this as a 4K game that feels completely contemporary and right for 2024.
I found a T-shaped tool in the box.
Now, do you remember that what we need to do now you've got the lifting key is to go back? No, sorry. What I should say here is that this is the auto hint, because we're playing the story mode. Auto hints are tied on, and we've measured how far it's taken you to get to this stage, and we're going to then use that as the basis for whether you want the auto hints to appear rarely after a long time, sometimes, which is what we'd recommend, and often will mean that you're almost playing an interactive story in that it'll tell you very quickly what to do next.
That's really good though, because the fact you've based that on the speed of people playing the game, and then they still have the option. It's not as if you've just automatically made the call. Because
No, but then there's other things, like for example, if people examine a lot of things, then clearly they're not stuck. They're enjoying the game. So what we try very hard to do is judge the way that people play the game and then extrapolate from that, so that in an ideal world, world, they would very rarely get this hint because they would move at their rate, and only when they're beginning to get frustrated would this auto hint come along. And then if they're completely stuck, we give them the solution.
I think that's great as well, because for modern audiences, for example, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who are content creators who will be live streaming this game and things like that. And obviously, as part of that is that you take, I mean, as we've been talking, you take breaks to talk to your audience and other people. And even if you're playing with friends, like locally, you might just pause and be like, oh, look at this scene. But you never want a game to always be like, do this, do this, do this. So the fact that even you've still incorporated how often do you want them to appear, considering your circumstances, I think it's just a wonderful touch. But if memory serves me correct...
Your memory does serve you correct.
Yes. I'll tell you, we'll go down here, and then we might sadly have to start wrapping up because we can't reveal too much of the adventure.
Well, except what we're doing is, if you get to the end, we're getting as far as you could get in the demo, in the original PlayStation demo.
Then we've got to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, and then what's this over here? Have you revisited the audio as well for this?
Oh,
as well?
very much so, very much so. Because everything had to go on a single CD, all the speech was 11 kilohertz,
yes,
rather than 44 kilohertz. So it was very, very heavily compressed. So what we've done is we've actually now enhanced the audio back to 44K. So it sounds a lot clearer. You don't have that hiss. And also we got the original high quality music from Barrington Pheelong's widow. I was so excited that she actually had a full backup. So, and then the sound effects. Again, we've improved the sound effects, or adjusted them, because ultimately, you know, what people play when they play the original game is very low quality audio. You know,
yeah.
and now we can have it at top quality.
So let's head straight upstairs.
Yep, and I'm afraid that this is the point at which the demo ended. So now you're beyond the original demo.
We did it! Childhood me, we passed it! I mean, I had a helping hand, of course, but we did it!
I love this character. When I was doing research, we went to see a friend who lived in a complex like this, and the concierge was very friendly until he realized I was English. And then he went on like this. So all of these characters, all my favorite characters, are based on real characters that I've encountered in throughout life. Always the best, the richest source of ludicrous lines.
Wow, so is George then based also on someone who you actually... No, so it's just the side characters who are...
Exactly, yes.
Oh my god, that adds so much, like, just life to them, that you've actually encountered characters like this. But... as sad as I am to pause here, I think this is where we shall wrap up so that viewers can enjoy the rest of the game. So this has been Broken Sword, The Shadow of the Templars Reforged, which is coming to PS5 on the 19th of September, which is incredibly exciting. So please, honestly, this game is a classic. It's so much fun. It's a brilliant adventure. Whether you're a new player or someone who played it back in the 90s, it's a wonderful experience just to have. And Charles, you've been an absolute delight. Thank you.
You've been wonderful. Thank you so much for your enthusiasm. I mean, what more joy can I have than somebody like you that's such a, you know, enthusiastic about the original and now this one as well. It's fantastic. I can't wait for this to launch. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh my god. Well, I cannot wait to already get in a blanket at home, dim the lights, and just be fully engulfed in this adventure. And like I said, you've been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to everyone at home for watching as well. If you liked the video, please feel free to give it a like and subscribe to PlayStation Access for even more awesome content on all sorts of video games, and we will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.
Picked up the plastic ball.
PlayStation